A routine inspection in Minnesota uncovered a system so quiet, so ordinary that no one noticed it was moving millions of public dollars in plain sight. The case began early in the morning during a standard review of a child care facility registered to receive government assistance. On paper, the center served dozens of children each week and received regular subsidy payments. The records showed attendance, staffing, and compliance. Everything looked normal. That illusion ended the moment inspectors walked inside. The building was silent. There were no children, no parents, and no staff. Toys were untouched. Cribs looked unused. Activity charts were blank. There were no signs of daily operation. What should have been a busy space felt frozen in time. This was not a failing center. It was an empty one. Inside an office, inspectors found documentation that raised immediate concern. Attendance roster listed hundreds of children, names repeated, signatures looked copied. Dates followed perfect patterns. The records were formatted correctly, but they did not reflect reality. What appeared to be compliance now looked like fabrication. As inspectors continued their review, the situation escalated. Financial records showed large sums moving through accounts tied to the facility. The money did not match staffing costs, supply purchases, or maintenance expenses. The flow suggested something more deliberate than poor management. At that point, what began as an administrative review became a criminal investigation. Authorities expanded their search and uncovered a wider pattern. The same individual was listed as a director across multiple childcare facilities. Each location was approved for enrollment. Each received regular subsidy payments. Each appeared inactive during site visits. The same paperwork appeared again and again, formatted correctly but disconnected from real services. Financial analysts traced the funds further. Payments moved through shell accounts. Transfers were split into small amounts. Transactions were routed through multiple layers to avoid attention. Nothing looked dramatic. Nothing triggered alarms. The system worked because it appeared routine. Investigators later described the structure as a pipeline rather than a mistake. Funds entered through public programs, passed through service providers on paper, and exited through private accounts. The system did not rely on speed or chaos. It relied on patience, repetition, and trust. As the inquiry deepened, authorities found evidence suggesting that the network extended beyond a single city. Financial logs connected accounts across multiple states. Remittance patterns resembled structures seen in other large fraud cases. No single document proved intent on its own, but together the records formed a clear picture. At the same time, investigators discovered attempts to leave the country. Surveillance confirmed movement towards coastal transit points. Federal agencies coordinated across jurisdictions. The situation escalated from financial fraud to a coordinated enforcement operation. The individual at the center of the filings was taken into custody before departure. Digital evidence recovered from seized devices led investigators to another location, one that appeared abandoned from the outside. The building sat in an industrial area with little foot traffic. From the street, nothing looked unusual. Inside, the reality was different. Security systems were active. Cameras monitored every angle. Equipment ran continuously. The site was not idle. It was operating around the clock. What investigators found inside shifted the case again, this time from financial fraud into a broader criminal investigation. Authorities reported large-scale illicit activity tied to the site. The operation appeared organized and structured, with production schedules, inventory logs, and transport records. The scale suggested long-term planning rather than spontaneous crime. Let's take a small break to like and subscribe to the channel. More disturbing was the discovery of individuals held inside the facility. Some were exhausted, some were fearful, some had been reported missing. Rescue teams moved carefully, prioritizing safety and medical care. One by one, people were escorted out of the building and into daylight. For many, the moment felt unreal. Some believed they would never leave. Medical teams treated dehydration, exhaustion, and shock. Identification units cross-checked names against missing persons reports. Matches came from multiple states and beyond. As rescue operations continued, evidence teams secured the site. Documents were preserved, devices were cataloged, financial records were copied. Nothing was left behind. Investigators understood that this location was not an endpoint, it was a node. By morning, the scale of the operation became clearer. The network did not operate like a traditional hierarchy. It functioned as a web. Different locations handled different roles. Some handled paperwork, some handled transit, some handled production. Each part looked ordinary when viewed alone. Back at the operations center, analysts began reconstructing the system. Subsidy filings aligned with payment cycles. Attendance rosters repeated across locations. Addresses overlapped. Names appeared in multiple roles across different entities. The system was built to look legitimate at every step. The most unsettling realization was how quietly it operated. There were no complaints because no one interacted with the facilities. There were no alarms because the paperwork followed the rules. There was no urgency because nothing appeared broken. Investigators emphasized that the damage went far beyond money. Every dollar diverted was taken from families who relied on assistance. Legitimate providers faced increased suspicion. Communities lost confidence in programs meant to help them. The human cost was heavier. The people found inside the facility lost time, safety, and freedom. Some had families searching for answers. Some had been missing quietly. Recovery would take longer than the investigation itself. As the case moved forward, agencies initiated internal reviews. Approval processes were examined. Inspection schedules were revised. Data sharing across states expanded. Officials acknowledged that paperwork alone could no longer serve as proof of service. The case prompted broader questions. How many similar systems exist unseen? How many facilities operate on paper alone? How often is compliance assumed rather than confirmed? Lawmakers began calling for reform, mandatory site visits, independent audits, cross-state data integration, real-time tracking of disbursements, verification based on observation, not repetition. The lesson was not about one individual or one location. It was about how systems fail when trust replaces verification. Fraud on this scale did not require force or threats. It required patience and predictability. Investigators stressed that accountability must reach every level. Those who created the system, those who benefited from it, and those who allowed it to persist unchecked. The investigation continues. More files are under review. More connections are being traced. Authorities believe this case represents only part of a larger structure. Each discovery leads to new questions. What made this case different was not how loud it was, but how quiet. The operation did not hide in darkness. It hid in routine. It survived because it looked ordinary. Public programs are built on trust for a reason. They exist to help people quickly and fairly, but trust without verification invites exploitation. This case proved that oversight must evolve with scale. Officials now describe the investigation as a turning point, not because it ended fraud, but because it exposed how fraud adapts. The systems that serve society must now protect themselves from those who see service as an opportunity. The story is not finished. Accountability takes time. Reform takes effort. But one truth is already clear. When institutions assume integrity instead of confirming it, silence becomes the greatest risk. This case did not begin with crime, but with trust, and it ended by proving that trust without verification can cost far more than money.